of the Tax Ombud flagging serious security gaps in SARS's e-filing system. And the warning is that profile hijacking is a systemic threat to taxpayers. There's a draft investigation report which shows that fraudsters are exploiting weak authentication controls. And what they're doing is they're often redirecting these tax refunds into fraudulent accounts. So the Ombud is calling for urgent reform, stronger digital security, as well as tighter collaboration with the banks and the regulators to protect you, the taxpayer. Let's bring in our Tax Ombud, Yanga Mputa. Yanga, good morning and thank you for your time. I hope that you are able to hear us now. It's a very concerning report about breaches because when we think about SARS, we know that it has what must be among the most sensitive and modern digital systems in the world. So just talk to us about what profile hijacking is and how on earth did it happen here?
Okay, good morning to you and good morning to the viewers of Newzroom Afrika and the South African taxpayers. Profile hijacking refers to a situation whereby the cybercriminals take over your SARS profile account and change your details to their details and then file tax returns on your behalf and then redirect the refunds that were supposed to due to you and pay them to the bank account of the cybercriminals. That is what profile hijacking is.
But when you're setting up an account, I mean, there are all of these fail-safes. Sometimes you've got to get a text with the OTP, a one-time PIN. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we have the most sensitive and modern digital systems in the world that SARS has. So what this tells us is that, you know, it's a vulnerability that they failed to anticipate. How did this happen?
I cannot say that is the vulnerability that someone fails to anticipate, except that the cyber criminals are becoming more clever daily. Because SARS has introduced measures. When we started the investigation last year, in November, SARS introduced the mandatory two-factor authentication system, and then they enhanced some of the security measures. But still, the cyber criminals are still doing this.
I mean, it really is. I mean, it really is concerning, and I suppose some of those questions then have to go directly to SARS and their cybersecurity experts to talk about where these anomalies are and why, even with two-factor authentication, people are still going through. Just give us a sense of how big a problem this is. How prolific is it, Yanga?
When we did our investigation, we firstly conducted a survey, an online survey from February to March this year. And we had about 395 respondents on the survey. And then we had a public engagement. So the problem is big. And then when we were doing the investigation, after the survey, then SARS submitted information. According to the information submitted by SARS, there are about 15,968 reported cases on this matter. Monthly, they have about 387 intake of cases reported to them of e-profile hijacking. So SARS is on doing this issue, but at the same time, as an oversight institution, we are supposed to do this investigation and report on systemic issues that impact the taxpayers and the tax administration system.
But before I go back to the systemic issues, I mean, how much money are we talking here? How much money has been stolen? And what, for example, might be one of the, you know, single biggest amounts that you've encountered so far?
So far, there are single biggest amount. For example, there was one taxpayer whereby it was 5 million rands. And then we have another taxpayer whereby from the month of March, April, they filed the tax return, the VAT return refunds, and every month it was 689,000, 689,000. Up until that taxpayer phoned us and we intervened, that SARS must put a stopper and not pay the refund for the month of May. So those were the ones that came in during our investigation. However, when we spoke to...
Sorry, go ahead, Yanga, go ahead.
When we spoke to SARS, according to SARS, the amount, the total amount of refund that has been paid back to taxpayers over the past 2 years is 21 million, according to their records.
But not all those are fraudulent, or is that representing the fraudulently dispersed funds?
Yeah, what happens is that a taxpayer will claim the refund, and then the fraudulent person has already claimed the refund, and then SARS has to do reimbursement.
All right, so you're saying then that's 21 million rand that has been wrongfully dispersed. My concern, though, and you know, Yanga, we're in this context where we know about people infiltrating systems. That's what this Madlanga Commission is all about, making these allegations that there are people who know what they are doing and they're being aided by other people on the inside. When you say that someone can go into a profile, A, that's already a big problem, and we'll come back to that. But the other is if you can create a series of refunds for yourself, and these are VAT refunds, you know, we know typically for a lot of people, we wait for refunds for a long period of time. I know that that's specifically when it comes to the rebate. I'm not sure about the VAT. You would know better. Could it be that somebody's helping these fraudsters and these cyber criminals on the inside?
We got that question yesterday from another newspaper, and the answer is no. For example, if your profile has been hijacked, SARS will not pay the refund until the investigation is done, and then they find, you know, from your side, then they're not going to pay your refund. However, refunds are generally delayed because SARS has to do a lot of verification processes so that they have to ensure that they are paying the refund to the correct taxpayer so as to avoid the issues of profile hijacking.
So how does someone know if their profile's been hijacked?
That's why we say, as one of the recommendations, that if you are an individual taxpayer, keep on checking your profile at SARS. Don't only enter into your profile when you want to file your tax return during the tax return filing season. Keep on entering in your profile so that you can check if your profile has not been hijacked. So it is the onus is on you to also check on your profile.
And I mean, how are you holding SARS's feet to the fire, Yanga? These are systems, these are their systems. As you say, these cyber criminals are smarter. I can't accept that as a citizen, especially SARS, which you know, has been and recently got a large sum of money from government to be able to do things like this, to be able to tighten up their systems and make it more sophisticated and insulate them from exactly what we're talking about now. I just can't accept that criminals would be smarter than one of the strongest institutions in the country.
Yes, I think when you think about it, it's not okay. Hence, you are doing this investigation. And I must put to you that SARS is one of the greatest revenue services in the world. When we meet with our colleagues from other countries, SARS is still rated #1. But that does not mean that when you are #1, you don't need to improve.
I want to talk about the other weak links in the chain, Yanga, before we go really quickly in terms of tightening things up and this doesn't happen again. You've highlighted the CIPC, SAPS as weak links in the chain. How come? And what's needed to tighten the system up?
The companies can file the VAT returns to SARS, that is, those criminals. They first go to CIPC and change the company directors at the CIPC profile. And then after that, go to SARS and file the fraudulent VAT returns. So we've had discussions with CIPC, and CIPC is aware of this. And I think maybe you can also invite CIPC for an interview.
Certainly will, and the banks as well. They're part of this triumvirate of vulnerabilities. Thank you for talking to us this morning. Yanga Mputa, with the advice there for all of you who have e-filing profiles, go and check, make sure that it's still password protected.